Hey guys, how is everybody doing? And welcome back to my James Bond review series. If you have not watched it already, go ahead and do so. I have already reviewed Doctor No, which is the first Double O 007 film adaptation. Excuse me. And if you did not watch that video for some weird reason and you're watching only this one, what the hell is wrong with you? I'm going to be reviewing all of Sean Connery's James Bond movies. Now, as of right now, I don't have any other plans to review the other James Bond movies, but I'm waiting to see how much you guys enjoy this series to where depending how much you like it and how well it does, maybe I'll do the other James Bond, but who knows? But as of right now, I will be reviewing only Sean Connery, and I last night I reviewed Doctor No, and tonight I will be talking about its sequel, From Russia with Love. And before I even get into my thoughts about this movie, admittedly, I talked about it in my review. I don't really care for Doctor No. I didn't really like it. It was too dated for me, and it just wasn't a very fun movie necessarily. It wasn't my cup of tea. So I kind of went in with very low expectations, but at the same time with some more high expectations from Russia with Love because this is one of those more well-known titles of the 007 franchise. I feel like when people talk about these movies, From Russia with Love gets talked about. It seems to be a popular title. It even got its own video game, and there's also the song From Russia with Love, which uh, which pretty much every James Bond movie has a signature song, but it seemed like From Russia with Love was very popular. So I was intrigued, but yet worried to watch this movie because I didn't like Doctor No, but I was intrigued because this seemed to be a more popular title. And unfortunately, not much of my thoughts from Doctor No are different from this one. However, before I get into those reasons, let's start off with my positives on From Russia with Love. And my first positive is that I do really enjoy how this movie is a direct continuation from Doctor No, and it definitely feels like that to where we basically pick up right after the moments of Doctor No and after that movie ended. Now, yes, there are some holes where I kind of question of like, oh, why is this character gone? And it's and it kind of have some questions, but whatever, it's James Bond, they all do it. And I've always liked when the James Bond movies had like a direct continuation because some of them don't even really do that anymore. They basically just pick up at a random moment, and and that's also another perk of of this franchise where you can put on any of them, not having to watch the previous movies, and you can just have fun with it. But this one is kind of like a mixture where it's like a continuation where it's like, okay, maybe you should have seen Doctor No, but at the same time, you could just put this movie on and just enjoy it. So I kind of enjoyed that because it was a direct continuation. I really enjoyed that, and because some of the Bond movies just don't do that, so it was nice to see that. And that's one of the things that I really enjoyed when I was watching the movie. And I already talked about him in the last review, but it's kind of hard not to talk about him when he's really the main reason that these movies are watchable and helped me get through these movies without falling asleep because I almost fell asleep watching this movie, admittedly. And Sean Connery is great as James Bond once again. He has that boyish good looks charm to him, and he just does a good job once again. He Nothing really changes in this movie from the last one, but it's still Sean Connery. He's really the main reason why I've been able to get through these last two movies because I've kind of been bored while watching them, but Sean Connery is what makes them at least watchable and helps me at least get through them so I can get the movie done with. And pure its title, this movie is in fact in Russia, and there are a lot of really cool shots in this movie that I really enjoyed of them just like, kind of showing off Russia, showing off popular buildings and showing off landscape of Russia. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, that was some moment like it wasn't throughout the entire movie. It wasn't like, oh, there's like a whole sequence where he's going through Russia looking at it, which I kind of wish there was, but there are moments where they just have wide shots of just showing off the landscape of Russia and just showing off certain buildings and then just traveling. I really enjoyed that. That was really cool to just see Russia, and there was just a lot of really cool shots and great cinematography when it came to that. So that's another thing I really enjoyed when I was watching the movie. But now moving on to my mixed aspects, I only have one. Um, this is kind of a good thing and yet a bad thing at the same time. There is more action in this movie. There's a lot more gunfights. There's a lot more, suspense to the film, I guess I should say. However, since there's more action you know, watching it's not very good action necessarily. Now, yes, am I kind of like a spoiled little bitch when it comes to the talking about this since we have, bigger action movies now because action movies are a whole different subgenre than they were in the 60s? Absolutely. But you have to understand that those were the action movies I grew up watching. That's an action movie to me. But watching this movie where they're just sitting there doing this and fucking Star Wars.
Horrible shots. Man, these guys are elusive.
Bullshit, like, it's kind of boring. However, I will give credit where credit's due. They did add more action to make the movie more entertaining, and they did do that. It was entertaining to watch the action, but it was very, very poor because I'm used to today's action, like Mission Impossible, John Wick, and fucking hell, even Daniel Craig's latest James Bond franchise. The action in those movies are still great to this day, but in this movie, hell, in this whole fucking Sean Connery series, I'm assuming is just not very good. And now moving on to my negatives. I really struggled kind of compiling up those thoughts when I was watching the movie. And the main reason is because this just feels like the same damn movie that I just watched last night. I was watching this movie and there were so many moments where it literally felt beat for beat to where I was like, okay, this is weird, but maybe it will, become its own movie later and this is just a setup and they didn't have anything original to do. But no, I was watching the movie and there's just literally moments where I'm like, this literally happened in the last one. Oh, this feels like a sequence that happened in the last one. Like in the beginning of the movie, like the first 20 minutes when we find, well, not even the first 20 minutes, because the first 20 minutes is kind of setting up this female character. And and then when we finally see James again, he's making out this girl on a picnic next to the lake. He gets called in by Moneypenny because M wants to see him, and excuse me, and the girl's jealous. It's like, oh, I haven't seen you in 6 months since you went to Jamaica or whatever the fuck, and she's just like, no, he's not coming in, and then they go off and have sex or whatever. And that's literally kind of a moment taken out of the first one where, he kind of flirts with that girl at the gambling table in the beginning when we first get introduced to James, and then the whole confrontation, not confrontation, the whole conversation with M and James, where they're talking about his mission, giving him like unique things like this cool little briefcase thing. That literally just felt like the moment when he gets his new gun in the last movie. There was just so many moments in this movie where it literally just felt like the same movie that I had just watched last night. And that makes it hard to watch this movie and to come up with thoughts on it. Because I'm sitting there and I'm like, I basically already watched this. Why are we just doing the same thing? It just felt like poor writing, and it just felt, and I'll get into this later, but it just felt rushed and it just felt like it wasn't a different movie. It just felt like it was the same movie with just a different title and a different mission. And that's it. So that was a huge issue for me. I was watching, I'm like, I literally just watched this last night, so why are we doing the same thing? And my other negative, and this basically goes along with it being the same movie, this movie feels rushed. But this movie felt rushed. It felt like they did not have an idea of what they wanted this movie to be. They kind of, if because this movie literally came out like maybe less than a year after Doctor No came out, and even in the credits they show like, oh, James Bond will return in Goldfinger next year, which that's the next movie I'll be talking about. And so it just didn't feel like they had an idea. They just felt like, oh, Doctor No's doing good. This character's really good. Everyone's loving him. We got to make sequels. We got to compile up some ideas. And this movie, just like I talked about earlier, just doesn't feel different from the last one. And this movie feels more like setup with the villain of one, which Doctor Evil is a parody of. And so I'm watching this and I'm like, this both feels like a setup and just a movie. This just feels like the one that's just there in the trilogy pretty much. And I'm just watching. I'm like, this just feels like setup, and it just feels like you did not know what movie you were trying to make. And it's very clear that the movie was also rushed. You can clearly tell because there's just not many differences, and the differences they do make are just not very good, and they just doesn't make any sense. If anything, this movie could be considered a reboot. That's how much of a difference it is from Doctor No, I guess. But I don't know. It was just very apparent to me that it just felt rushed. But all in all, guys, I don't really care about From Russia with Love. A lot like Dr. No, I did not really care for this movie, and I might even prefer Dr. No over this movie because this movie just has nothing new to offer, and that takes a lot away from my enjoyment of this movie. But maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just a Debbie Downer when it comes to these movies, and it's disappointing to sit in front of this camera and say all this. Like I wanted to enjoy these movies. I was excited to watch them, and then didn't, and I just haven't been enjoying them. But overall, if you like Doctor No, you'll like this one. But other than that, I don't see you enjoying this one either. So, what do you guys think about From Russia with Love? Have you seen it? What do you think about it? Do you like this movie? Do you not like this movie? Do you prefer Doctor No or do you prefer this movie? Let me know in the comments below and we shall talk about it. If you like this video, like it. If you love to subscribe, hit the bell notification so you will get notified for all of my latest videos. And of course, until my next video, see y'all next time.